My parents said I was their biggest regret, so I walked out quietly, cut financial ties, and watched their lives fall apart without me. My dad's voice cracked as he shouted it, red-faced and trembling, the vein in his temple pulsing like it might burst. His hand slammed the table so hard the silverware jumped. Across from him, my mom didn't even blink, just stared at her tea like she wasn't hearing her husband emotionally detonate at the family dinner table. It wasn't the first time he'd yelled at me like that, but it would be the last I didn't cry. Not this time. Not like I did when I was 11 and he told me I'd ruined his chance. Had a better life? Or when I was 17 and he said I'd never be more than a burden? Or when I was 20 and he screamed that I owed them everything because they didn't abort me when they had the chance? No. This time I smiled. Just a quiet, almost amused little smirk. Because I had been waiting for this moment, planning for it. All those years of being their scapegoat, of being told I was an accident, a failure, a dead weight dragging down their lives, I'd spent every second of it quietly building something they didn't know about. I'd been saving money from my under-the-table freelance jobs, taking online classes, working nights while pretending to sleep. They thought I was going nowhere. They had no idea I had already left, and that night when my dad bellowed those final words at me, I simply stood up. No shouting match, no sobbing. I pushed my chair in, calmly grabbed my jacket, and said absolutely nothing. My mother, finally looking up from her tea, raised an eyebrow and said, "Don't you dare come crawling back. You walk out that door, don't ever return." I paused at the doorway, phone already buzzing with the Uber I'd scheduled 2 hours ago, and said without turning around, "Cool. Good luck paying the mortgage." Then I walked out. They had no clue how close they were to defaulting without my help. They didn't know I'd been secretly covering half the bills for nearly a year. I had the bank transfers to prove it. Anonymous, silent, the way they liked it. I had protected their pride and bought my way into their silence, but not anymore. Out in the driveway, the Uber pulled up. As I got in, my phone lit up, not with a call from them, not a final teary apology, just a simple, beautiful message. "Your lease has been approved. Welcome to Raleigh." I smiled for real then, not the cold, bitter one I'd given them. This one was different. This one meant freedom. The car ride felt longer than it actually was, maybe because I couldn't stop replaying the moment I walked out. The look on my father's face when I didn't flinch, the silence from my mother, sharp, hollow silence that had always been her weapon of choice. But this time, it didn't work. As the Uber curved through my old neighborhood, I glanced out the window at all the streets I used to walk at night when I needed to escape the yelling inside. They looked smaller now, tired, like a set that didn't know the show was over. The driver didn't speak, and I was grateful for the quiet. I checked my phone. A string of messages had started to trickle in. "Mom, unbelievable. After everything we've done for you. Dad, you're acting like a child. Grow up and come back. Mom again, don't ever return, you hear me? You're dead to us." I didn't respond. I didn't even read the rest. I just blocked the numbers one by one. By the time we reached the motel, I felt like I'd shed an entire skin. The place wasn't fancy, just a one-night stopover on the way out of state. But the key card in my hand felt like a gold medal. The room smelled like cheap cleaning spray and linoleum, and I loved it. I set down my bag, just one backpack with everything I owned that mattered: laptop, documents, charger, clothes. My whole life fit into it because I'd been packing it mentally for years. A knock on the door startled me. I froze. No one knew I was here, but when I peeked through the peephole, it was just the pizza delivery guy. I'd ordered it the second I got in the car. It was the first real meal I bought for myself without guilt in, honestly, maybe ever. That night, I ate greasy pepperoni in bed while watching bad hotel cable and listening to the buzzing silence of a phone that would never ring again. Not from them. The lease confirmation had come through earlier than expected. I had signed it using a P.O. box I'd set up months ago under a fake middle initial, just another layer of insulation from the past. I had enough saved to pay 3 months' rent up front, plus deposits. The job I'd landed was waiting for me 2 states over, start date in 4 days. Remote tech support, full-time, benefits included. I curled up under the stiff motel blanket, pizza box still open, and for the first time in my life, I slept with the light off and the door locked from the inside. And I dreamed of peace. The sun was barely up when I left the motel. I didn't even bother checking out at the desk. I just dropped the key card in the slot and kept walking. The bus station was 2 blocks away, and I wanted to be gone before they woke up and realized what good luck paying the mortgage actually meant. Because here's the thing they never figured out. They were broke, truly, deeply broke. They had racked up so much quiet debt over the years. Credit cards, refinancing, shady loans from people they thought I didn't know about. But somehow they always managed to stay just above water. You know how? Me. It started small, a couple of $100 here and there, just until the end of the month my dad would say, "Or your mother's medication wasn't covered." Guilt always came dressed as a request. Eventually, it grew to thousands. I'd been covering their electric bill, their car insurance, half the mortgage, and they never noticed because I never let them. That was my mistake. I thought if I kept showing up, kept filling in the cracks, maybe they'd start to see me as more than a disappointment. But they didn't, and when I realized they were never going to, that's when I started pulling away, quietly, strategically. I opened a separate bank account under a different credit union. I restructured my freelance work so the money bypassed the joint account. I even created an alias email for job applications, one they couldn't track. They had no idea I was building a new life, 3 states away, while they were still blaming me for things that happened when I was 12. The bus ride out of town was long, 8 hours, 2 transfers, bad coffee at a gas station diner that only took cash. But with every mile between us, the air got lighter, my chest felt less tight. I kept imagining them waking up, going about their morning routine, expecting everything to function as usual, until the emails started, the bounced payments, the overdue notices, the realization that I wasn't there to patch the holes anymore. And then the real kicker, they'd call the bank and ask why their mortgage payment failed, and the bank would tell them the automatic draft had been canceled, that the CO signer account was closed because I had removed myself. No more invisible lifeline. I took care of it before I even left the house. They'd think it was some petty revenge move, but really, it was a mercy. A final act of honesty after a lifetime of pretending I wasn't the one holding it all together. As the bus hummed along the highway, I looked out the window and finally allowed myself a thought I hadn't dared to speak aloud until now. They needed me, but I never needed them. I got off the bus just after dusk. The city was smaller than where I grew up, but it felt bigger in all the right ways. No ghosts here, no memories baked into the pavement, just clean air, unfamiliar streets, and the feeling of possibility. The leasing office for my apartment had left the keys in a lockbox, like we arranged. I punched in the code, pulled out the envelope, and held a little silver key in my hand for a long time before unlocking the door. The apartment was quiet, unfurnished. The floor still creaked like it was telling secrets, but it was mine. I dropped my backpack on the floor and stood in the middle of the empty living room, letting the silence wash over me. For the first time, I didn't have to listen for footsteps or doors slamming or my father pacing in the hallway, muttering under his breath about what a burden I was. No one here thought I was a burden. It was just me. I made a bed out of my hoodie and 2 folded sweaters that night, ordered Chinese takeout with the cash I'd stashed in my wallet. I ate sitting on the floor, back against the wall, watching the shadows from the streetlight crawl across the ceiling. Then my phone lit up. I almost didn't check it, but curiosity got the better of me. It was from my mom, don't ever return, no hello, no follow-up, no explanation, just that. I stared at it for a moment, then typed back, "Cool, good luck paying the mortgage." Then I blocked her number. No drama, no long paragraph, no emotional finale, just facts. Because she didn't deserve my anger anymore. They'd gotten it all for free for years. My time, my energy, my support, and when it finally ran out, they acted like I stole something from them. They didn't know how close they were to the edge. I had been their parachute. Now they were in free fall. The next notification was the lease confirmation from the management company again, a second copy of the digital signature and welcome packet, like the universe was making sure I understood this wasn't a fantasy. I was here. I set the phone down, curled into my makeshift bed, and stared at the ceiling again. It hit me then. Not like a punch, but like the end of a long breath I didn't know I'd been holding. I was free. Scared, absolutely, but free. The next morning I woke up before the sun. I hadn't set an alarm, but years of tension had trained my body to rise early, always bracing for something, my dad yelling about a utility bill, my mom slamming drawers in the kitchen as a passive-aggressive protest because I didn't fold laundry fast enough, but now, just silence. I sat up slowly, taking in the echo of the empty room. It was strange, surreal. The stillness wasn't heavy, it was light, full of space and possibility. Even the floorboards, creaky and bare, didn't seem to mind the weight of my steps. I had no furniture, no dishes, just a few changes of clothes, my laptop, and a second-hand coffee maker that I bought from a gas station on the way into town. But I had peace, and for once, that felt like enough. That morning I started my new job, remote onboarding for a small tech company. Nothing glamorous, but solid, stable, full-time, with benefits and people who didn't care about my family name, my past, or whether I was the mistake that ruined everything. During a break, I checked my email. I knew I shouldn't have, but part of me still had that compulsion. The one that tells you to peek through the blinds even when you know what's outside isn't good. 17 unread messages, all from my mom. The subject line said everything. "You're being ridiculous. Don't do this to your father. We took care of you, and this is how you repay us? The bills are piling up. This is all your fault." I didn't open any of them. I just stared at the list, the digital proof of everything I'd already escaped, and I hovered over the delete all button. But then the last one caught my eye. Subject: "You were supposed to save us." There it was, no sugarcoating, no guilt-wrapped manipulation, just the raw truth of how they'd always seen me, not as a son, not as a person, as a lifeline, a plan B, a tool. I clicked it. The message was short: "You were supposed to save us. You owe us that. Don't forget where you came from. We were there when no one else was." I sat with it for a minute, then I replied, "You were there, but you never showed up. And I don't owe you for surviving what you put me through." Then I blocked her email and my father's and my sister's. I deleted the family group chat from my phone and backed up all my important files to a cloud drive I paid for myself. I wasn't going back. Not digitally, not physically, not even emotionally. The ghosts of that house were trying to follow me, but I wasn't leaving breadcrumbs. The first few days in the new city felt like someone had taken the volume knob of my life and finally turned it down. No shouting, no guilt tripping, no footsteps pacing outside my bedroom late at night. I could breathe. The apartment was still mostly empty, but in a strange way, that made it feel bigger. I'd gone from a house where every square inch was monitored, criticized, claimed by someone else, to a space that was entirely mine. Even the quiet of the fridge felt like a small luxury. That Thursday, I got a call from an unknown number. It didn't surprise me. I'd blocked my parents' phones, emails, socials, but I knew they'd try something else. That was their pattern. When direct pressure didn't work, they shifted to backdoors, old tactics, desperate voices through borrowed phones. I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later, the notification popped up. I hesitated, then hit play. It was my mom, the voice that had once tucked me in with bedtime stories when I was too young to understand who she really was. "Hey, we got the foreclosure notice today." No hello, no pause, just that. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but we can't pay this without your help. You know that. You've always known that." I closed my eyes. Of course they had defaulted that quickly. Of course it had happened. They never really kept track of money. I did. I always did, even when I was 15. I was the one who reminded them when bills were due, who helped them renegotiate with creditors, who made the call when Dad screamed too much to talk to the bank himself. "Your father is not doing well. He's angry. He says he won't beg, but I'm asking. Please, just come home. Just fix this." I paused the message there. They weren't asking because they missed me. They were asking because the house was crumbling, the roof was leaking, the walls were closing in, and the son they once called a mistake was the only one who had ever kept the structure standing. That voicemail was proof of everything. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need a confession. This was better. This was real. I sat back in my chair, let the message finish playing, then deleted it. I wouldn't be their safety net anymore. Not their backup plan, not their quiet solution in the shadows. And the beautiful part? They couldn't find me now. I'd changed my mailing address, disconnected every financial tie, moved to a city where no one knew my last name. Even the job listed me in the system as a remote, out-of-state contractor. No breadcrumbs, just air, just space, just freedom. That Friday night, something strange happened. I was sitting on the floor, eating instant noodles out of a pot, legs stretched out across a thrift store rug I'd picked up that morning. Nothing glamorous, nothing Instagram-worthy, but it felt right. The city buzzed quietly outside my window, cars passing like waves, soft and distant. I didn't have cable, and the Wi-Fi still lagged, so I just sat there in the stillness. No noise, no expectations. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something bad to happen. No one was going to call me a failure. It was just me, in a little apartment with a plastic fork and a cracked phone screen, finally alone with my own choices. I laid back, hands behind my head, and stared up at the ceiling. It wasn't silence I heard. It was peace. Saturday morning, I went grocery shopping for the first time. For myself, not for someone else. Not because we were out of milk and my dad would yell if his coffee wasn't right. Not because my mom guilted me into picking up her prescription since I was already out. Just because I needed groceries. It sounds small, right? But pushing that cart through aisles of cereal and pasta, with my own list in hand, my own money in my pocket, felt like claiming something I didn't even know I'd been missing. No one told me what brand to buy. No one hovered over my shoulder criticizing what was a waste of money. I didn't grow up learning how to take care of myself. I grew up learning how to take care of them, how to anticipate a tantrum, how to fix problems I didn't cause, how to apologize for breathing too loud. So, yeah, picking out bread felt like a win. At checkout, the cashier smiled and said, "Hope you're having a good day." And I meant it when I said, "I am," because I was. I really, truly was. Sunday rolled in, soft and gray, clouds blanketing the city in a kind of quiet that used to make me feel small. At home, silence meant something was wrong. It meant someone was angry or disappointed or planning to unleash it later. You learn to read the air like weather, the difference between angry quiet and sad quiet, and don't you dare speak quiet. But this silence in my apartment wasn't heavy. It wasn't a warning. It was space. Mine. I made coffee slowly, let it brew all the way without rushing, sat on the floor again, legs crossed, mug in hand. The floor creaked when I shifted, but it didn't feel like it was complaining. It just was. I pulled out my laptop, opened the budget sheet I'd built for myself months ago. All my savings, all my projections, all my backup plans, every contingency mapped out while they were screaming that I was aimless. Funny, right? How the kid they said would never make it had been planning for this moment since high school. While they were accusing me of being a drain, I was the only reason the house hadn't collapsed. They didn't know I'd called the mortgage company and refinanced in secret to get the payment down. They never saw the overnight work, the tutoring, the freelance gigs, all the unsexy hustle they didn't bother to ask about. They never asked how I was, only what I could give. And now I gave myself a future. It's wild how different the world looks when no one's trying to make you feel like an obligation. I still don't have much. One folding chair I found on Facebook Marketplace, 2 forks, a bed frame that hasn't arrived yet, but everything here is mine. Every cracked bowl and chipped mug, every echo in this tiny apartment. It all belongs to me, and that means something. It means I'm no longer stuck trying to earn love that was always conditional. It means I get to build a life that doesn't start with shame. It means the version of me they tried to keep small. He's not coming back, not now, not ever. That night, I sat by the window with the lights off, just the city breathing outside, and the warmth of my mug between both hands. No notifications, no buzzing, no voices clawing their way into my quiet. I was alone, and I was okay. No dramatic goodbye, no final confrontation, no "you were right" or "I'm sorry." Just me in a place that felt like a beginning. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything to anyone. And, honestly, that was enough. The following week passed in a strange blur of normalcy that I'd never experienced before. Each morning, I woke up on my makeshift bed, brewed coffee in my secondhand coffee maker, and logged into work from my laptop propped on the floor. The routine was simple, but it was mine. On Wednesday, a small package arrived. I hadn't ordered anything, and for a moment my heart raced. Had they found me? But when I opened it, I found a welcome gift from my new company, a branded mug, some pens, and a handwritten note from my team lead. "Welcome aboard. Looking forward to meeting you on the next video call." It was such a small thing, but I sat there holding that mug for nearly 10 minutes. Someone had thought about me, not what I could do for them, but just me, as a person who existed and mattered. I cleared a special spot for that mug on my windowsill. Thursday night, another unknown number called. This time, it was my sister. I hadn't heard from her in nearly a year. She'd moved out when I was 16, escaping the toxicity in her own way. We'd never been close. She was 7 years older and had her own trauma to deal with. But her voice sounded different now, hesitant. "They're saying it's your fault," she began, no greeting. "That you stole from them and left them high and dry." I didn't respond immediately. What was there to say? The truth? That I'd been their financial life support? That I'd given them thousands while they called me worthless? "Are you still there?" she asked when the silence stretched too long. "Yeah," I said. "I'm still here." "Is it true?" she pressed. "Did you really drop them like that?" I leaned against my bare wall, phone pressed to my ear. "I stopped covering their bills, if that's what you mean." The silence on her end felt like processing. "You were covering their bills? How much?" "Half the mortgage, most of the utilities, car insurance, medical copays." Another long pause. "Jesus. Since when?" "Years," I said simply. "Since I was in high school, really. Small stuff at first, then more and more." She exhaled a long, whistling breath. "They told everyone you just abandoned them without warning, that you were ungrateful after everything they did for you." "Of course they did. That was their narrative, always had been. I was the ungrateful child, the burden, the mistake." "Why are you calling?" I finally asked. "I don't know," she admitted. "I guess I wanted to hear your side. They've been calling me daily, asking for money, saying they're going to lose the house. Dad's talking about moving in with me if they get evicted. Now I understood. She wasn't calling out of concern for me, she was calling because their problem was about to become her problem. "I can't help you," I said quietly. "I'm done being their solution. I'm not asking you to help them," she said quickly. I need to know if I should, if they deserve it." That made me pause. My sister, 7 years removed from daily contact with them, was asking if our parents deserved help, if they were telling the truth. "What do you think?" I asked. Instead of answering directly, she was quiet for a moment. "I think they're exactly who they've always been, and I think you finally got tired of it." Something inside me loosened at those words. Not forgiveness, not acceptance, but acknowledgement. Someone else could see it. "Yeah," I said. "That's pretty much it." "Where are you now?" she asked. "Somewhere new," I answered vaguely. I wasn't ready to share that, not even with her. "Are you okay?" There was genuine concern in her voice. "Getting there," I said, and I meant it. We didn't talk long after that. We'd never had the kind of relationship where we poured our hearts out to each other. Too many years of being pitted against one another. Too many scars from different battles in the same war. But before we hung up, she said something that stayed with me. I got out too, just in a different way. But I never had the courage to cut them off completely. It wasn't courage, I told her. It was survival. After we hung up, I stared at my phone for a long time, then I added her number to my contacts. I didn't block it. It felt like a tiny door left cracked open to a possible future. The next day, Friday again, marked 1 full week of freedom. To celebrate, I splurged on a real bed. Nothing fancy, just a twin mattress delivered in a box. But when it expanded to full size in the middle of my empty living room, it felt monumental. That night, I slept on a real bed for the first time in my new life. No more makeshift pile of clothes, no more sore back from the hard floor. I spread out my arms and legs, taking up as much space as I wanted, and fell into the deepest sleep I'd had in years. The weekend brought more small victories. I found a secondhand desk and chair at a thrift store. I hung up a shower curtain with a pattern I chose myself. I bought a plant, a little succulent that didn't need much care but added something living to the space. Sunday evening, I checked my email again. This time, there was a message from an address I didn't recognize, but the subject line gave it away. "Your parents need you," all caps, like they were screaming through the screen. It was from my father's brother, my Uncle Joe. We'd rarely spoken over the years, but he'd always sided with my dad. The email was short, accusatory. "Your parents are about to be homeless because of your selfishness. They raised you, clothed you, fed you. How dare you abandon them now? Blood is thicker than water. Family takes care of family." I read it twice, feeling nothing but a distant pity. These people really had no idea. They'd never seen what happened behind closed doors. They'd never heard my father's late-night rants about what a disappointment I was. They'd never witnessed my mother's cold silence that could last for days if I made a single mistake. I didn't bother replying. Instead, I blocked his email too. One by one, I was cutting away the anchors that had kept me drowning for so long. Monday morning, I woke up to an email from my boss. "Great first week. The team is impressed with how quickly you're catching on." Such a simple thing, but I read it 4 times. Praise, acknowledgement, a confirmation that I wasn't what they had always said I was. I took a screenshot of it and saved it to a folder on my desktop labeled New Life. It was a small thing, but it felt important to document these moments, to remind myself on harder days that I was building something real. As I sipped my morning coffee in my company mug, I looked around my apartment, still mostly empty, still echoing with each footstep, but changing slowly. A desk in the corner, a real bed against the wall, a plant soaking up sunlight on the windowsill. When my phone buzzed with a text from a new unknown number, how many relatives did they have to enlist? I didn't even bother checking it. Instead, I opened my laptop and started my workday. The wall of silence I'd built wasn't perfect. They were still trying to find cracks, still searching for ways to pull me back into their orbit. But with each day that passed, their voices grew fainter, more distant, like stars blinking out at dawn. And in their place, new voices emerged. My team lead complimenting my work, the cashier at the grocery store remembering me from last week, the neighbor who nodded hello in the hallway. Small connections, neutral ones, free from the weight of history and expectation. And in these exchanges, I was just me. Not a disappointment, not a burden, not a bank. Just a person learning how to exist without apology. That evening, after work, I walked to a nearby park and sat on a bench, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors I'd never had time to notice before. A dog ran past, chasing a frisbee. Children laughed on swings. Normal scenes from normal lives. I pulled out my phone and opened my photos, scrolled back to the last picture I'd taken in my parents' house, an accidental shot of my bedroom floor as I was packing secretly, just a blurry image of carpet and the edge of a bag, the last photographic evidence of my old life. Then I scrolled forward to the new ones, my empty apartment on day one, the view from my window, my new desk, my plant. It wasn't much of a photo album yet, but it was a start, from emptiness to something, from silence to peace, from survival to living. I put my phone away and watched the last light fade from the sky. The stars would be out soon, appearing one by one in the darkness, new constellations to learn, new patterns to follow, and for the first time I felt genuinely excited about tomorrow. Not anxious, not resigned, but curious. What would I build next? What would I discover? Who would I become without their voices in my head? I didn't have the answers yet, but I had time now. Time and space and freedom to find out. And honestly, that was more than enough.